The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Welcome into an all-new edition of the Belly Up Fantasy Live Football Show on the Belly Up Sports Network, and we are live to discuss running backs all stinking episode long. Lots of things to discuss today. I'm Vince Stover, host of the Sports Stove Football Show. I am joined, as I am every week, by the fantasy experts at Belly Up Sports. To my that side, left, I think it is the co-host of the Third and 10 podcast. He's also writing on all kinds of websites, including on the fantasy side of the bellyupsports.com website. Brian Germinaro. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to talk some running backs. One of the more important positions in fantasy, I'd say.
For sure. To my right is the senior writer at bellyupsports.com. And by senior, we're not calling him old, although he is. Kyren Williams with us as well. Kev, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing great. And we had some rain, not like they had down south or anything like that. But so temperatures hopefully will come down a little bit. It's been a cool summer for up here in North Texas so far. We'll take it. And so I'm excited to be here and excited to talk about some running backs and who knows what else we might get into. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I'd love to talk about Brewers-Dodgers. It's 2-1 right now for the Brewers.
Yeah, well, okay.
For another day. We'll stick to the football today. And, man, we're just getting ever so close to draft season. Some people are obviously already drafting. I think
don't do that. Okay.
Don't.
Not yet. Settle down, people. Do your mock drafts, do your practice drafts, but don't real draft just yet as well. But today, like I said, we are talking running backs, and we've got a load of topics to discuss in that range. So let's get things started with our first segment. We call it the lead block. All right, with our lead block segment, we're talking studs and duds, and we're looking at running backs. And so we're looking for 2 studs and 2 duds in the running back world of rankings and things of that nature. Typically, what we're talking about with studs could be anyone at any level as far as top rated to bottom rated. We always look at value when we're talking about these things. And so, if you get a stud running back that you can find late, maybe he's not going to be the number one running back, but because of the value, he becomes a stud. And same things with a dud as well. And so let's start off with a stud to start things off today. Kevin, let's kick it off with you.
Okay, so the first stud I'm going to go with is a rookie, and it's Ashton Jeanty of the Raiders. And even though he is a rookie, I think that this is the perfect situation for him. And the reason why I say that is because his head coach, Pete Carroll, certainly knows how to use a running back. And then you got Chip Kelly, who, despite whatever flaws he's had as a head coach, he can certainly coach running backs. He proved that at Ohio State. So this whole thing, and on top of all that, Geno Smith is their quarterback. They're going to have a much better offense up there or over there, wherever Vegas is. All right. And so this is the perfect situation for him. I would be looking for him to take some other guys I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute, even though he's a rookie. I like the situation he's in, and I think he's ready to go.
When I was looking at running backs preparing for this episode, I couldn't get my eyes off of the rookies. Like, I thought, man, I could just vomit rookies out in the stud section if I wanted to right now, because there's so many of them in good situations, ideal situations, and Jeanty obviously one of those. Brian, you look at Jeanty, as Kevin brought up. We've talked about him briefly through our dynasty conversations and things like that. I think everyone's pretty much all in on Ashton Jeanty.
Oh, I am all in. I have him as my RB5. I cannot wait to see what this kid did. Seeing what he did at Boise State last year, he's in Pete Carroll's offense, which, we all watched what Marshawn Lynch did for years. I'm not saying he's going to be that good, but this is going to be a really special player, especially for fantasy.
Yeah, I agree as well. All right, Brian, who's your first stud?
I'm gonna go with Bucky Irving of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kind of stole the RB1 job for Rashid White last year. Once he did that, he exploded. Averaged 115 yards a game, had 5 touchdowns, and was really a big producer in the red zone. He got 55% of the touches when he decided to run the ball in the end zone. A full season of him as RB1. I think he's pretty young, too. If I'm not mistaken, he's like 22, 23 years old. So he doesn't have a lot of mileage on him. He could be in for a breakout season this year.
I like that one a lot as well. I think when you look at him, he's 22, and like you said, not a lot of miles there. I like the offense he's in. I like the situation he's in. You know, he's proven he's been there, done that last season for sure. So I like it a lot. I know last season he was around RB 15 in that range, and this year he's top 10 for most people. So you know, you've seen that improvement as well. So I like that one as well for sure. Kevin, we're gonna go dud now. All right, we're gonna go back and forth on this one. So Kevin, we're about to go to a dud. You might have to pull up a different file there, but throw out your first dud.
Okay, so when we're talking about duds, as you mentioned, these are guys that I think that you would have to take at a certain spot, and they're not going to measure up to that where you're going to have to draft them. And the first guy I'm going to come up with is Christian McCaffrey of the San Francisco 49ers. And from whatever I've done some research, and it seems like, well, it doesn't seem like it is, that the consensus is that he's the number 4 running back in PPR fantasy redraft. And for that to happen, everything has to go at 100%. He has to be completely healthy. You have to buy in completely to the San Francisco offense. And this could go either way. It could go, really, really, really well, which it would have to if you're taking him this high. But it could go really, 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 really badly. And I don't think that where if you have to draft this guy is going to measure up to the value that you're going to need for that selection. And so I am not ready. I've got him in 2 leagues in Dynasty. It's a whole different conversation altogether. But in redraft, I am not prepared to use the draft pick I would have to use to get Christian McCaffrey this year.
I mean, I agree with you, Kevin, for sure. I kind of said this, I think, previously. I'm out on McCaffrey this year as a whole. I'd be shocked if he's on any of my fantasy rosters just because of where he's going to get drafted at. And he's a make or break. He's a hit or miss, right? If he's healthy, he's going to score. There's no doubt about it. The question is will he remain healthy? And he has. He's got seasons where he's played all 16, 17 games, and he's been great. He's been RB1 in those seasons, but it's when those health becomes a factor, and I still am terrified of what San Francisco is going to look like this year. I think they need Christian McCaffrey, so if he's healthy, he will score. But I'm terrified that he won't be healthy. Brian, your thoughts on McCaffrey as a dud based off of value?
Yeah, definitely based off of value, I can see him as a dud. I thought about putting him in as a dud, but I thought that was, just a little like, oh yeah, with the injuries and everything. I think he's such a boomer bust guy. Like, if he booms, he's going to be a top 5 running back. But if he, those injuries flow up again, he's going to be that, 20. So I definitely would stay away from McCaffrey unless he falls. Then you take the shot.
Sure. All right, Brian, who's your first dud?
My first stud might come a little bit surprised, but I have Derrick Henry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to get into this. Okay,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So I still think Derrick Henry will be, a top 10, 15 running back, but I have him more towards 8 or 9 than, 5 or 4. And that's just because his playing style. He's 31 years old, and he plays a very physical style of running back. He likes to just, plow guys over, break tackles. At some point, that will catch up with him. It could be this year, could be next year, but it's coming. And we also have the reports that the Ravens are looking to pass the ball more, which would mean less touches for Henry, which could see less value for him. So I think Henry will be a good running back. I just don't know if he'll be this clear tier RB1 like we've seen in the past.
Yeah, when I was working on my rankings, I felt like I had him too low. I'm just kind of going through it, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh man, that's just really low for him even at this spot. I got him at right now. I think I got him at 6, RB6. Yeah. And, I felt bad. I was like, I got Achane over him, Jeanty over him, who we haven't even seen play a snap in the NFL yet as well. And I just go, oh, man. I actually originally had him slightly lower, and I thought, no, I can't have him that low. So I moved him up a little bit. So I'm worried about it. Age is definitely a factor for me too. They say they're going to try to throw the ball more. I'll believe it when I see it, maybe the first couple games, and then they finally revert back to it's a 2-man game between Jackson and Henry running the football as well. So I could see that. I could see him dropping a little bit this year, as long as he stays healthy. Of course, I think he's still probably a top 10 would be my guess. But there's some guys that we'll talk about later in the program that could jump him as well. So that's a bold take, though, I would say as well. Kevin, initial thoughts on a dud being Henry?
Well, I'm going to go absolutely a different direction than what Brian's going into. And because I'm going to talk about him in a minute, because I've got him as my stud.
All right, let's talk about it. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, so we can talk about that. So you're right, Brian, that the end is coming, but I don't think it's going to be this year. He didn't miss any games last year, and to think that he's going to rush for 1,900 yards, that's folly. But I still expect him to come up with 1,400 to 1,500 yards. And last year, he averaged his career best of 5.9 yards per carry. So that does not show me whatsoever that he's getting ready to take a step off the ledge. And in PPR, he's got to it's a little because he doesn't catch the ball very much, and so that's an issue. But beyond that, I am ready to get on board with him. I'm not buying this that the Baltimore Ravens are going to run or pass the ball more. They are a running team. We know this. They know how to do it. They're extraordinarily successful at doing so. So I am all in, and I think that you mentioned it that he's behind some of these other guys, and rightfully so. And so if you can get him in that area, this is a guy that's really going to come through for you. So I've got him as my other stud, and if I could get him on my fantasy team, I'm all down for it.
One of two things happen in decline, right? Either it's a slow decline where they go from, in his case, almost 2,000 yards to 1,300 yards, which is still better than a lot of people. But that's a slow decline. A major decline would be an 1,800-yard season, or something that would probably have to be injury, I would assume, if something like that happened. And any player can get injured. You never know when that's going to happen, of course, as well. So I think there's definitely, as you guys have done, an argument to be made on both sides of it when it comes to Derrick Henry. All right, another stud from Brian now.
I got Chuba Hubbard from the Panthers. I went NFC South heavy with my studs, but he was the bell cow back last year. Kind of surprised everyone a little bit. He set up again to be the bell cow back this year in a much better Panthers offense. They added McMillan. Bryce Young looked more like a competent quarterback down the stretch. That's going to lead to more scoring opportunities for him and more touchdowns. I had him as the RB20, so he's going to be low. He could really sneak up these draft boards and be someone between the top 10 to 15. And to get him as like the RB20, that'd be great value to have.
That would be great value. I almost put him as a dud. And I thought, no, a situation, I don't think he could be a dud. He can be, obviously, but last year, I think the biggest concern was the draft pick, and he got hurt. So then he's not going to play, it looks like, a big role, if at all, this season as well. So when you got Hubbard sitting there at that value, RB20, RB17, RB in that range, last year, like you said, over 1,300 yards total from scrimmage, double-digit touchdowns last season, and ideally a better offense. That's still my biggest concern, I think, is what's Carolina going to look like this year? Because they could be amazing. Honestly, they could surprise everyone, win the division. It wouldn't be that hard to do. And so it'd be intriguing for sure. Kevin, thoughts on Hubbard?
I really like him. I really like what he did a year ago. And the only thing that would give me a pause to this is because they added Rico to the mix,
No.
and there's going to be some competition. I still think he'll be the RB1, and but that gives me a little pause to put him as a stud. I don't think he's going to be a dud either, but that increased competition, and we certainly don't know what kind of offensive game they're going to put together down there in Carolina. So I like what his prospects, because he's still a young guy.
Yeah.
And but that competition and their offense gives me a little pause to call him a stud.
Yeah, he's 26, RB12 last season. If he can finish RB12 again this year, I think that would be a success.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And he's not going to sneak up on anybody like he was a year ago.
Yeah.
Because you could have had him off the waiver wire last year.
Yes.
That's not happening this year.
Yep. For sure. All right, let's go final dud then, Kevin. Who's your final dud?
Okay, so this might be a little bit of a shocker, and I was advised not to do this, but I'm going to do it anyways. And I'm going to go with Alvin Kamara as my dud.
Okay.
Okay, I know we spoke about him before, and this is relative to where you'd have to pick him. And I think the Saints, let me get back on the right road here. The Saints are going to have a terrible, terrible offense. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. And I talked about you have to downscale their wide receivers. But if you're also doing that, I think you got to downscale the running backs as well. I think he's going to try everything. He's going to try and catch as many passes as he can. He's going to run as much as he can. But I don't like that offense down there whatsoever. And he's not going to deliver to me what he has done in the past. So I am going to stay away from Alvin Kamara unless he slides, which I don't think he will, because people still know Alvin Kamara's name, and they're going to draft him as if he was the Alvin Kamara of a few years ago. I don't see him delivering that kind of production, so I am out on Alvin Kamara.
As of today, he's still 29, which blows my mind. It feels like he's 34, something like that for sure. Yeah, the New Orleans thing is going to be intriguing. What they do, new coach, that gives you a little bit of hope, but the quarterback situation is so bad. At least I think it is as well. I agree with you, Kevin, on that as well. So we're down to the final dud, Brian. And we've mentioned 3 of the 4 NFC South running backs. I don't think we're gonna finish that out here with your final dud. So
no, we are not.
Your last
no, we're
dud?
Not. I had Chase Brown of the Bengals. He's
okay.
my RB, I think 11 or 12, somewhere in that range. But his value came highly off the amount of touches he had. In game, he averaged 24 touches in the last 8 games of the season. But the more games, the more touches he had, the more points he had, which is, obvious. But when you look at the way this Bengals team is designed, that defense might have gotten worse. That is a big possibility because they didn't really go out and address it. They had some interesting pieces, but nothing to write home about. So the Bengals are going to be down a lot in games. That means they're going to be throwing the ball more, less touches for Brown. So he could see that, points just drop.
Best case scenario, the Bengals receive first every single game.
Yeah.
Because then they can get ahead and stay even from then on out. With Trey Hendrickson still in the holdout, with rookie Shamar Stewart still in the holdout. Lord only knows what the Bengals defense is going to look like this season. And unless T. Higgins and Jamar Chase play both ways, which probably wouldn't be smart either, it's not going to be pretty there for sure. So, Chase Brown's a really intriguing one for me as far as rankings go, because if you're sitting there working on rankings, you're like, good year last year, total points wise, at least a good year last year. And obviously a great offense, all that kind of stuff. But there's something about them that still kind of makes you go, I just don't know that I trust the situation very well, Brian, just like you said. So I'm with you on that one for sure. Thoughts on that, Kevin? Any thoughts on Chase Brown?
If we don't know what to make out of Cincinnati as a whole, I want, as I've mentioned many, many, many times, this is a cat household. And so I must support any and all kitties here. But hard as it is to believe, I think that defense didn't improve. It was awful. And throwing the ball is the way that you got Joe Burrow. And unless he starts catching passes, then I think that could be a dud selection right here. I don't want it to be so. I want to believe in this whole offense because that's the whole part of their team. But as far as running backs go on Cincinnati, then I just can't do it.
All right, I had a few guys written down as well. If you guys didn't mention them and you did not, so I'll throw them out there for you guys to think about. Studs for me, I got James Conner in Arizona. I'm ridiculously high on the top 3 guys in Arizona this year, skill players. So obviously at tight end, wide receiver Marvin Harrison, and then here with James Conner, he just continues to just do it. And so I like him a lot. I think his value has dropped a little bit this year in rankings and things like that. So I think value is going to be really good for James Conner. And then I also got Javonte Williams on here in Dallas. Again, if he wins that starting job, he's going to get every opportunity. He had some success in Denver beforehand. And so I think if he can hold that starting job in Dallas, then I think it's going to turn out positive for him as well. And again, the value is going to be pretty good for Javonte Williams. So, Brian, any thoughts on Conner or Williams on a positive note on my end?
No, I love James Conner. I almost had him as one of my studs. I love what he's going to do in Arizona. The age is a little factor because I believe he's going to be 30 this year, but he still should have a great season coming up.
Kevin, any thoughts?
As far as what I was going to consider using the whole Dallas running game as a dud.
Sure.
Just throw them all in a bag and shift it around and see what comes out. Dud. And so I'm not ready to buy in on that just yet. Yeah. And as a guy that I work with is a Dallas Cowboys fan, as fan as they can be, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Williams is going to be great." Okay, well, he's going to have to be great.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And but he's got competition. I don't know if he's even going to win the job.
Sure.
And so that gives me a lot of pause right there. And the way the exhibition games go nowadays, you're not going to get a real clue out of what any team's going to do as far as their starters. So you're still not going to have a clear view when on draft day with this guy, I don't think. And so I'm out.
Yeah. That's fair points for sure. Duds, I had McCaffrey was on my list as well. I got Jaylen Warren. I'm going heavy with the rookie in Pittsburgh this year. So I think Warren, I think he's still going to score. I think he's going to get some points, all that kind of stuff. But just to me, it's not even worth drafting unless you're going to get both Pittsburgh guys playing both early on in the season until you figure out exactly how it's going to shake out. I don't think Warren's worth the value. And then I also put down James Cook. Again, just the value piece, but we're going to talk about him more in a moment. So we don't have to get into that yet because I'm intrigued to get your guys' thoughts on him, but we'll wait till segment 3 to discuss James Cook some more. And he should be amazing, but I've got some reasons for this, and we'll get to him in segment 3 as well. So that's the lead block, studs and duds this week with running backs. Feel free to share your comments on your studs and your duds for the 2025 fantasy football season, and drop them in the comments, and we'll be happy to comment on those as the show goes on as well. All right, let's head into segment number 2. We call it the cover 2. All right, this week on cover 2, what we want to discuss is fantasy leagues in general, kind of talking about preferences, because you can find a million different kinds of leagues to get into. And one of the things that for some reason causes debate, and I've always been surprised by this, is the PPR stuff. I have, I think, always played PPR. There may have been early league where maybe it was even a half. I don't remember. Now I was like 11 years old, but a long time ago, by the way. Rick Meyer was in the league at the time.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Now you're talking like, just past dinosaur age. Right?
Everything was on paper. We didn't have it all online. It was great. It was a wonderful time. Brian, you probably don't remember a time where there wasn't online, but that's okay.
Yeah. No, I don't. I don't think I've ever played fantasy on paper.
Yes. Oh, it was wild. But anyways, going through the newspaper, box scores, marking down. Oh, it was nuts.
I've done the newspaper box scores. I've done that.
Yes.
Never fantasy though.
Yes. Yeah. It was a wild time. Wild time to be alive. All right. But let's talk about PPR, half PPR, zero PPR. I have always been a huge proponent of PPR. I think it makes sense in every way, shape, and form. Kevin, are you with me on this? Or can we shout "Get off my lawn" to everyone who's against PPR, or what are we doing here?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that because I came a little bit later to fantasy football. I was in fantasy baseball earlier than I was fantasy football, but ever since I've gotten into it, it's always been PPR. I understand the reason why they did that because before that, standard, you might as well not even draft too many wide receivers because it's all running backs. So, and that's not what you want to do. You want to have, the entire league, involved with your team and everything else. And so PPR is where I am. I understand maybe half PPR involves maybe more positions. I don't know because I've never done that before. But PPR is where I stand. And whatever league you're playing in, I want to use a scoring system because I keep seeing this like some guy is going to score 281.4 points. I don't want any of that nonsense. Okay? It should all be even, right? We could use 0.5 if we want to do that. But
I gotta say, this is a whole different conversation, Kevin. I like this. I wasn't expecting this one. So you're not for like the 0.1 points per yard.
No. You shouldn't have to be a math major to use fantasy football.
I kind of like this take. I like this.
Okay, and I am not a math major. Okay, I struggled to get through geometry. I got algebra. I'm sorry. I got a C, and that was just barely. And so I don't want to have to sit there and get out my calculator to find out maybe what kind of guy do I need to put in this spot? Well, this guy's going to score 21.8. Well, this dude over here is going to go 202.2. So what's just the better, value? I don't want any of that. I just want to know 22 points, 22.5, whatever it might be. And so that's just my personal take on that. So PPR is where I'm going. And keep the scoring so people can understand what they need to do when they're planning their team.
All right, 2 thoughts before I toss this to Brian. First of all, if you go on your ESPN app, you click on the person's name, it breaks down the score for you. You don't have to do any math. Just so you know, if you can see it right there. Secondly, my worst loss of all time was a Vince Young kneel down that subtracted 0.1 from my score. 0.2 for my score, 0.2 for my score, and I lost the matchup. That was a Monday night game. It was, the week was done. I had the win in place, and he took a knee, -2 yards, minus 0.2 points, and I lost by 0.1. So brutal loss there. Brian, we can talk about PPR, but I want to talk about Kevin's thing first. This decimal 0.1 points per yards. I love that. So I'm surprised, Kevin.
Yeah.
Brian, your thoughts on it?
I don't mind like the decimal points for PPR. Like I'm just kind of used to it by now. Like, it's, I forgot, like I had the equation. I think it's like 10 yards equals 1 or like,
yes. Yep.
10 yards equals a point. So like that's how you do it if you want to do simple math. Like, all right, that was, you're watching Jamar Chase. He scores a 75-yard touchdown. All right, well, his yards alone, that was 7.5. His touchdown. All right, that's a big play right there. Yeah. So if you want to do no math, that's how you do it. But, I much rather prefer PPR. I think it's the simplest form. I think it's relatively easy to understand. It's kind of the closest way you get the football because, the yards matter, the touchdowns matter, the receptions matter. It just makes the most sense.
Yeah, you hate when you got a player that's doing something and you don't get anything for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
And in the day and age of screen passes and bubble screens, your guy gets tackled for minus 3 yards. You still get 0.7 points out of it because you get the point for the reception and then the -3 points or minus 0.3 points for the yards. I love it. So, Kevin, I can't believe we've never talked about this before, Kevin.
We have never. That's right. We have never discussed it. And I'm okay with the guy getting 1 point. Okay. But
Sure.
1 point, 3 points, that's where the problem comes in.
1.3.
Kevin, I don't know if we can be friends
I agree
anymore,
with you.
man.
I hate math as much as you. If someone's trying to find every loophole possible to fill his math requirement in college,
Yeah.
I'm totally on your side with the hate math.
Oh, cat people. They don't like decimal points. This is breaking news. I don't even know what to do with myself anymore, Kevin. I'm in shock.
Well, I'm glad that I can help shake things up just a little bit.
I was talking with someone yesterday. I was actually in a meeting, and we were talking about opinions. And I said the great thing about an opinion is opinions can be wrong. And so Kevin has to share his opinion. I shared my opinion. One of us is wrong. We'll never know which one. But well, actually, we do 2-1. You lose this one, Kevin. So sorry.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
No, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. I want to let everybody know we are going to be doing a charity leagues again this year through the Belly Up Sports Network, and we're excited. We'll give you all the information on it in the coming weeks, but we have had some people reach out about that, and so we will be doing that again this week with the lemonade stand. So not this week, but this year. So we'll get you that information in the coming weeks, and I'll let you sign up for that as well. Appreciate everyone who's been involved in that in years past, and excited for another great year of that as well. All right, there's some thoughts on fantasy football leagues. Let's head into segment number 3, though. This is my favorite. We call it the read option. All right, for our read option, what we do is we take some players. We give the experts here an option. Pick one or the other, and if they pick different ones, if they are on separate sides of the equation, I break the tie.
Okay.
That I just in because I like to. So we're going to start off, and we're talking running backs again today, and we're going to start off with Kyren Williams from the Rams and James Cook from the Bills. So those are our options in this round, and I'm intrigued by this one because I look at the rankings and I see where guys kind of fall just naturally, and I try to pick guys that are close in ranking. But I also try to pick guys that are close in situation and stuff like that too. And I felt like this one you guys were fairly similar. And I've already kind of told you where I stand on James Cook, but we'll discuss it after you guys make your pick. So Brian, we'll let you pick first. Kyren Williams from the Rams or James Cook from the Bills?
So I'm gonna go Kyren Williams. This might be a little bit of a homework pick. Williams was one of my favorite players at Notre Dame when I watched him play there. But the only player that had a higher snap share than Williams last season was Saquon Barkley. Now, was Williams the most consistent running back? No, but if you get more consistency in what should be a better Rams offense, he could, have a nice bounce back season. There's a sophomore slump element, as always. I think of more touchdown opportunities this year. And for James Cook, that touchdown number last year is a major outlier. I think he had 18, which is far surpassed any previous season he had before. So I doubt Cook gets anywhere near 18 again. I'm going to stick with Williams, who I can know at least with his yardage get good value.
I like it. All right, Kevin, Kyren Williams or James Cook?
Okay, so when you look at this, because Kyren Williams took a step back a year ago, everything was down. His yards per carry and everything else. And he's got a fumble issue, which is always concerning when you're a running back. And he's got the load. He's got more of a load. Then you look over here at James Cook, but he's much more efficient. And I think, Brian, you're right that there's no going to be 18 touchdowns this year, but he's been fourth in yards per carry since his debut, and he went from RB19 to RB11 in 1 year, and I think that he can maintain that right about in that area. So, and I like their offense in Buffalo. I like the LA offense as well, but I like the offense more in Buffalo. And I know you're probably going to go with this, Vince, when I say this, but I'm going to go with James Cook here.
And listen, I've been a massive James Cook supporter since his rookie season, truly. But this year's different for me. And let me give you my thoughts on this. Kyren Williams last season had 316 carries, almost 1,300 yards, 1,299 yards, 14 touchdowns rushing. He added 34 catches, 182 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns through the air. You brought this up, Brian. Only 83 carries by other Rams running backs last season. So he had 316 compared to 83 by the other running backs on the team. Now, that's not counting the receivers that got some carries and things like that as well. James Cook, on the other hand, efficient, great word for it, Kevin. 207 carries last year, just over 1,000 yards, 16 touchdowns. He added 32 catches, 258 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the year. Now, obviously, Josh Allen carries the ball a lot. He had 102 carries for 5 touchdowns. Then the other running backs, Ray Davis, 113 carries, 2 touchdowns, and Johnson had 41 carries, 0 touchdowns. So efficiency, 100% correct, Kevin. He was far more efficient. Opportunity goes down. Then you throw in, he's a holdout. He's causing some issues with his contract. So now you got to look into, okay, is he going to buy in if he does come back, when he does come back? Is he going to be bought in to what's going on? I'm always worried about these guys, especially in positions like running back. I go back to Le'Veon Bell back years ago now, and he's not Le'Veon Bell, but at the same time, I'm worried.
Thankfully.
Yes. Yeah. At the same time, I'm worried. Josh Allen is gonna always steal some touchdowns from him. Last year, amazing. Like you said, 18 total touchdowns. Not going to happen again. I think Ray Davis is better than people realize as well. I think he's going to continue to get a fair amount of carries in that Buffalo offense. The longer that James Cook causes problems, the more scared I am for his fantasy season coming up. And this is a guy who loved James Cook, especially last season. So coming into this one, I've got him ranked very similarly, but I would go Kyren Williams because I think he's the bell cow. And at some point, that's going to continue to rise. I think his numbers do go back up this season. I think his touchdown numbers get higher. And you got to remember, the Rams got better offensively this offseason, bringing in Devontae Adams into the mix. That's going to take some defense, away from the line a little bit, because they're going to have to guard 2 receivers that are very, very good as well. So I think it's very close. I wouldn't say that I think you're going to go wrong if you take James Cook over Kyren Williams, but I feel like Williams is the safer pick. Hence the reason that's why I go with Williams this season, and why I had Cook as a dud, because I think where he's going to get drafted by many people. If you look at the rankings, he's down lower this year for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. He's still, I just can't imagine he's going to drop that low once the draft season comes around. So unless something more breaks with the news, and everything going on. So that's why I'm going Kyren Williams. But I don't think either of you are wrong, like the decimal point scoring we talked about in the last. All right, let's go to some guys that are a little further down the rankings this year. And Kevin, we'll let you lead on this one. We've got Aaron Jones from the Minnesota Vikings, and we've got DeAndre Swift from the in-conference, in-division Chicago Bears as well. Neither of these guys are top of the line running backs at this point in fantasy, but they're going to get drafted. They're going to be RB2s, maybe even flex players wherever they fall. So, Kevin, Aaron Jones or DeAndre Swift?
Okay, so let me give you the good news when it comes to Aaron Jones.
Okay.
Last year, career high in rushes and total touches.
Yeah. So
that's the good news with him. This year, however, he has competition.
Sure.
In camp. And he's 31. And just like Williams, has fumbling issues. So, and we don't know what's going to happen exactly with J.J. McCarthy as the quarterback over there. So then we come over to Swift, and Ben Johnson is the answer here, because the last year that he was in Detroit with Ben Johnson, he was number 16 running back overall. I think he'll get right back to that level. I think that this is going to work out really, really, really well in Chicago. And if you're these guys are going to take them a little bit later. So if you could take Mr. Swift a little bit later, I think there's all kinds of value here. So I'm going Swift all the way with this pick.
Another player that's younger than you realize, at least I realized, DeAndre Swift.
That's right.
It's crazy.
All right. And Jones is 31. So this is the problem.
Yeah, and I honestly, had I looked at ages beforehand, I may not have put this pairing up here, because I pulled it up thinking, well, I'm going to tell Kevin why DeAndre Swift in Detroit, sure, but now it's years later and he's 32. No, he's 26. So there you go. That's good to know. All right, Brian, Aaron Jones or DeAndre Swift?
I'm the same way. I'm with DeAndre Swift for all the reasons Kevin just said, and for the fact that if you look at the numbers he put up, they aren't too terribly different than what he put up in Philly in 2023. There were some drawbacks. I think he had 100 or so less rushing yards, but that was in a very inconsistent Bears offense last season. With Ben Johnson coming in, there should at the least be some consistency with that offense. He should, at the floor, repeat what he did in 2023, or potentially do what he did when he was with Ben Johnson in Detroit. Give me DeAndre Swift. He could be a breakout star this year in fantasy.
Yeah, I was going to go with Swift anyhow before I realized he was only 26. But let me give you this thought on Aaron Jones. Did you know Sam Darnold had 67 rushes last year? That I was shocked to see that. JJ McCarthy will have more. He is going to run the ball more than Sam Darnold did. So there's going to be that involved. The other running backs last year in Minnesota had 125 carries compared to 255 by Aaron Jones. So it's about a 1/3 of the carries, basically, or he's got 2/3 of the carries. So pay attention to that a little bit too. Jones is getting older. And listen, as a Packer fan, Jones, I loved him in Green Bay. I was really disappointed that he went to Minnesota, but he is getting to that point. The Packers don't typically let those guys leave, in their prime. So you expected some drop of some things, and the older that he gets and the more competition he gets up there in Minnesota as well will play a role in it. Swift at 26 in a much better offense. Last year, just shy of 1,000 yards. He also added 42 catches for 386 yards as well. And the other running backs, he had 253 carries. The other running backs in Chicago only had 55 carries as well. So he was kind of the bell cow there in Chicago. And Ben Johnson coming in, it's only going to get better for DeAndre Swift, I think, as well. Even though they've got a ton of receivers and pass catchers with tight ends too, Swift, I think, will have a good season. So we're all in agreement there. All right, final one. And this is one I am intrigued about. As Tyrone Tracy from the Giants and Brian Robinson Jr. from the Washington Commanders. Brian, we'll start with you on this one, as it is your division and your favorite team. But Tyrone Tracy Jr., we've talked a little bit about him because of Cam Scatterbo coming in as a rookie and everything as well. Brian Robinson Jr., their numbers are very, very, very similar last season. So I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on these guys.
Yeah, this might come as a surprise, but I'm going with Brian Robinson. Look, I love Tyrone Tracy. I think he's going to be a good back in fantasy and in the NFL this year. But you do have to look at the situation. He has Cam Scatterbo behind him, which should eat up a big portion of touchdowns. Derrick Singletary is also on this roster still. I think he'll be a cut candidate, but if he's there, he's going to get touches, all right? I forgot how much the Giants are paying him, but they're paying him too much just for him to be a change of pace back. He needs to get some involvement in that offense. Compared to Brian Robinson, sure, he is Austin Eckler, but you don't really think of Austin Eckler as a runner. You think of him more as a pass catcher. Then after that, it's Chris Rodriguez, who was a 6th round pick. Like, he could be decent, don't get me wrong, but is he really going to eat into that volume like, a Scatterbo or Singletary would for Tracy? No. And Robinson will be the primary back in the red zone, whereas I really think Scatterbo will be the primary back for the Giants in the red zone. So give me Robinson. I think he's got a clear path to RB1 territory.
Very nice. Very nice. We are not homers. We like our teams, and we'll tell you when we like our teams. But when it comes to actual fantasy, we're smart enough to not be a homer in most cases. All right, Kevin, your thoughts. Tyrone Tracy, who you've talked about that you like very much, and Brian Robinson Jr. in Washington.
Okay, so the number that really surprised me when I was doing the research on this is that Brian Robinson was on the field for only 43% of the Commanders' snap total. 43%. So he was not out there nearly as much as a running back as I'd like to see. And I know I've talked about it that got Cam Scatterbo back there and everything else. But at the very, very worst, I see this as being a 50-50 split. And Tyrone Tracy, if he could get rid of that fumbling issue that he has, then he can be the clear. He's going to be the clear running back if he can get over that. And so 43% was really eye-opening to me. And because of that, and he doesn't have any catching ability, which you have to have in a PPR league. So I'm going to go with Tyrone Tracy. I'm sure that's not a surprise to anybody, but that 43% really threw me.
Interesting. All right. So Tyrone Tracy, 192 carries last year, 839 yards, 5 touchdowns. He had 38 catches, 284 yards and a touchdown. The other running backs last season, mainly Singletary, 197 touches there with Tracy. So we're already used to him splitting, is my point by that. And I don't think that, like Kevin was talking about, I don't think it'll be drastically different as far as his percentage of carries and things of that nature. Brian Robinson Jr. has been one of the most consistent running backs over the last 3 seasons. He has gotten just under 800 yards all 3 seasons here in Washington. And he hovers right there close to 8. Last year, 799 yards. I think the year before, 760 something. The year before that, 780 something. So he's right there. He's consistent. And one of the things I talked about on my show with my dad when we previewed the East was this is kind of his year to either make or break being RB1. If he can't truly take control of that situation, he needs to get to 1,000 yards or right up to it, or else Washington's going to be looking to bring in that next guy. Eckler's not the next guy. He's the previous guy. He's aging, and he is the pass catching running back in that duo for sure. Robinson only 20 catches last year, 0 touchdowns with those receptions. So, I look at it and you go back to the quarterback situation, same as James Cook. You got Jaden Daniels there carrying the ball a ton. He had 148 carries, but he had 891 yards, more yards, obviously, than Robinson, 6 touchdowns, a couple less touchdowns than him. So I think situation still actually leans towards Tracy, in my opinion, as well. Now, Robinson could become that guy. He could become that dude where Eckler, with his age, drops down a little bit in his snaps. Rodriguez is fine as a backup running back, but he's not going to overtake him. So maybe this is the year that Robinson breaks that 1,000-yard barrier and he becomes that guy because that offense is loaded. But I still like Tracy's situation a little better than Robinson's. I'm a little down on Robinson as well, fantasy this year. So I'm going to go Tracy, and I have to admit, having 2 Giants votes to 1 Commanders vote, I didn't think Brian would be the Commanders, but I like it. I like it, Brian. I like it a lot. So there you go. There's our read option this week. Again, feel free to throw in the comments who you'd pick, Kyren Williams or James Cook. How about Aaron Jones or DeAndre Swift? And the final one was Tyrone Tracy and Brian Robinson in the NFC East. We'd love to get your thoughts on it as well. All right, let's head into our final segment. We call this one the Red Zone. All right, on the Red Zone, we're talking rankings, and rankings are flying off the shelves right now at bellyupsports.com. Go to bellyupsports.com. Click on the football tab. It'll drop down. You click on fantasy football, and boom, there they are. Rankings all over the place, and they are continuing to come off the shelf. So we have currently on the website, we have Brian's rankings up. Kevin's will be coming later. Mine are coming this week, I think, of running back.
That's right.
One of us. Yeah, mine's coming this week.
It's coming from somewhere. So
yeah, there's more rankings coming. I've lost track, but nonetheless, so let's discuss some running back rankings right now. Tier 1 for Brian, I have them up on the website currently, is Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Achane, and Jeanty as his top 5. And Achane at 4, maybe a little rich for my blood, but I've got him similarly. I think I've got him at 5. So not that far off, of course, from there. But talk about your tier 1. How much thought went into Achane above Jeanty, even who's a rookie we don't know anything about, sure, but we're all pretty high on.
Yeah, I think Achane above Jeanty just because the established. We know what he's going to be this upcoming year. Jeanty's still an unknown. Jeanty could be the RB1 by the end of the year before we know it. But there's such a transition with the NFL, regardless of position. It's faster. You don't play, teams like Colorado State for NFL. It's like my favorite Urban Meyer quote was, "Every week felt like I was practicing for Alabama." That is what it's like the NFL. So just because of that, I had to put Jeanty a little lower, but I still think he's going to be a really great any one of these options. If you get is your fantasy team, you are set for the season.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with those top 5. I think you land any of them, you're good. Kevin, I'm really big on Jahmyr Gibbs this year. I've got him as RB1. I know he's got David Montgomery in the backfield with him. I feel like this is kind of the year where he separates himself. And then I've got Bijan Robinson 2 and Saquon 3. How do you break down those 3 guys between Bijan, Saquon, and Jahmyr Gibbs?
Well, I've already gone on record because we debated this. And I know it's redraft now, but I want to still go with Gibbs at number 1. And then I've got Robinson at 2, Barkley at 3, Henry at 4, Jeanty at 5. Then I go A-Chain, and then Jacobs, Taylor, Irving, and Williams round out my top 10. And so any of these guys, I think that if you get one of these guys, and when we just talked about McCaffrey, I've got him at 12 in my rankings. If you can get him in that range, then we can discuss whether I had him as a dud, because people are drafting him at number 4 running back. That's not happening to me. But at number 12, then maybe you could take him there and get value out of him. But so those are where I have my rankings.
Yeah, I split the difference with you guys on McCaffrey. Brian's got him at 6. I've got him at 9. You've got him at 12. I still think, draft wise, again, if he's healthy, he's clearly a top 10 running back. That's just the question of, are you willing to risk the health or not? From there, we've talked about Taylor and Jacobs last week in our read options. So if you missed that episode, go back and listen to that. I think Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs, listen, I've got them in a similar spot as you guys do. I'd be really happy with either one of those guys. And I might even, let's do this. Running back, I think, is the deepest position this year in fantasy drafts. And I feel like in the past you had to get your running backs early or you were screwed. And this year it seems like, the top ones are going to be amazing, but I just feel like there's so many options at running back this year.
I still lean quarterback being a little deeper, but you are right. Running back is probably the deepest it's been in years. I think just 2 years ago, if you were in a 12-man league, 11 of the top 12 picks all went running back. Every once in a while you get a wide receiver. If you had a bigger league, maybe Travis Kelce was stuck in there, but years past, it was weak. This year, even if you have a guy like, Josh Jacobs as your RB1, you still feel kind of comfortable because you probably got a top tier wide receiver or some other high value position.
Yeah, I agree with that because I've got Kenneth Walker, who I've discussed already, ranked right behind McCaffrey.
Okay.
And I think that he's going to have a huge year up there in Seattle, but that just goes to show if he's outside the top 12, then we've got a pretty solid running back scenario. And you add in the wide receivers, because years ago, wide receivers weren't going as high as they are now. And we've got, at least in my draft, a wide receiver's number 1 overall. And so you can, if you're if you're into the draft, like 8th, 9th, 10th, whatever, you aren't going to get a top running back. You can do that this year.
Yeah.
And so I really like what this stacks up to be going into this year, and where people are ranking these guys overall to see how in draft, mock drafts are open. And so get on there and see where real people, not talking about Athlon or whomever else, but real people, where do they rank these guys, and then use your strategy accordingly.
Yeah, I look down this list. I look at Brian's rankings and my rankings, and I look and go, okay, I'm going to look at rookies. So obviously we got Jeanty up in the top 5. After that, where do we go? We both have Omarion Hampton at 17 at the same spot. I would assume, Kevin, you've got Hampton somewhere in that range. And is he the next rookie on your list?
Well, I've got Henderson ranked right before Hampton. So these guys are pretty mirrors of each other. And if you can get one of these, you're going to get them later in the draft. I think you could get some of these guys, some of these other names are going to go before these guys. And if you can get them a little bit later in the draft, you're really going to be set.
Yeah, after Hampton, you go RJ Harvey. It's
Yes.
your next rookie at 25.
And he would
I
have
go
been higher if Dobbins did sign with Denver.
sure, and I go Caleb Johnson as my next rookie. So like after we get past Jeanty, it starts to open up a little bit. But again, if I get Caleb Johnson, if I get RJ Harvey, if I get Travion Henderson, even if I get Quinshon Judkins as my RB2, like I'm ecstatic. I'm sitting there going, all these rookies are in good situations to succeed. We have no idea truly what they're going to be yet, but we have reason to be positive with all of these guys. And honestly, Caleb Johnson, who I have ranked higher than most, is probably the scariest of the bunch just because it's the Steelers, and the Lord only knows what's going on in Pittsburgh these days. So I understand the concern there, but even if we can get these guys at RB 20 to RB 25 to RB 26, 8, whatever, man, I'm happy with landing those rookies at that spot. Is there a rookie, Brian, that you've got on your rankings, but maybe you're less secure about than some others?
Not. I mean, the only one would be maybe Junkins, just because I don't know when he's going to take over as RB1. I expect it's going to happen, but I still think we're going to see 4 or 5 weeks of Ford as that primary RB1 until Junkins takes over. So that'd be my only concern, just because I don't know what the timeline is on him. Whereas the guys ahead of him, I know it would be RB1 or RB1A going in from the start.
Yeah, fair point. Kevin, on these rookies, same question, I guess. Is there one that you like, but you're also a little concerned about?
Well, I think you mentioned him as Johnson, just because of the team that he's on. And I don't like the guy ahead of him, even a little. And so I think that he could be the RB1 sooner than later. And I would expect that to happen. But the Steeler offense, what do we make of it? We don't know that yet. So, and I wish the exhibition season would give us a little more heads up on way things might look in the regular season. You're not getting that now.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to draft these guys pretty much blind, because you're not. Maybe they play the rookies a little bit more.
Sure.
But you just got to make your call. I think Johnson is going to be the RB1 for the majority of the season.
Yeah,
but even if he is that, Steeler offense, is it any good? We don't know that yet.
The problem with Caleb Johnson is if he makes a mistake and Aaron Rodgers goes to Mike Tomlin, because Aaron Rodgers is not a fan of rookies. He goes to Mike Tomlin and he says, hey,
sure.
I don't want this guy next to me. Then he's not going to be next to him, And so you got to throw that in there a little bit too. And running back hasn't been as big of an issue with Rodgers as receivers have been, young guys, but still that's definitely a concern as well. Last guy I want to hit on the episode is Isaiah Pacheco. You look at Kansas City and obviously we talked last week a little bit about Mahomes and what he can be in real life versus fantasy and all those kinds of things. Pacheco, injuries are now an issue for him for sure. Brian, you've got him at 26. I've got him at 27, I believe. Yeah, 27. So right there together. Kevin, do you have him in your top 30?
I have him at 25.
Okay, so we're all right there together with there. Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah, right Kevin, there.
Kevin, kick us off. You've got him as RB1 in your – no, I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. You've got him at 25. So tell me, I don't know, what do we make of Isaiah Pacheco this year, especially when it comes to draft season?
Well, if he can be healthy, I like him in that offense. I think that Mahomes, as we've mentioned, and that whole offense is going to be a little more even Steven kind of thing. And Pacheco has shown that he can run the football. He's shown he can catch the football. So hopefully you're doing your draft like the Sunday before the actual season begins. And on that particular Sunday, if he comes out of the exhibition season and he's totally healthy, I really like the value this guy can deliver. And you can throw that 25 ranking right out the window as far as I'm concerned. On draft day, if he's healthy, if you can get him a little earlier than that, I would do that.
All right, Brian, Isaiah Pacheco. What do we make of him as we come up to draft season?
It's really tough because he has been hampered by injuries, and it also looks like the Chiefs are kind of shifting towards a running back by committee. They brought in Kareem Hunt to kind of be like the RB2, potentially RB1 if Pacheco's not ready to go. And they also have Isaiah Mitchell. I know he's kind of disappointed these past 2 years, but let's not forget his rookie season. He was like 50 yards short of the 1,000-yard year. So I don't think he's going to get a lot of touches, but he should get a decent amount, at least a change of pace type. So I think that eats heavy into Pacheco's snap share and his volume, limits him, and then with the injuries, I don't see a world where you don't really have most like a flex / bench option at best.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll continue. We're going to put our money where our mouth is. At some point, we'll have a draft. We will figure out. You can see our thoughts behind why we draft, where we draft, all that kind of stuff as well. You get to that part of the rankings, though. It's when it really comes down to preference, it seems like, over anything else as well. It's intriguing to watch and hear people's opinions on why they have them, where they have them at, for sure. Again, if you want to see these running back rankings, you go to bellyupsports.com. Brian's rankings are posted. Mine will be posted later this week. Kevin's next week for running backs. But we've got plenty of other rankings on the website right now as well that you can look at. We've got a couple with quarterbacks up, receivers up, tight ends up as well. So go check those out on bellyupsports.com. Kevin, tell the fine folks about your content coming out this week or even recent stuff that you've done.
Well, if you go to the Belly Up Sports page, as you mentioned, you will find my wide receiver rankings. It went out just yesterday. And I've got rankings on there. I've got fantasy baseball articles on there. And not this Sunday, because you and I don't have a show this Sunday, but usually if you check in, if you're into fantasy baseball, you definitely want to watch the Belly Up Fantasy Live Baseball Show on Sunday nights. And Friday nights, we are going to be doing Seahawks sessions between the three of us that are Seahawk fans. Unbelievably enough, there are three of us in the Belly Up world. And so we'll be discussing that. And Saturday morning, I go on a No Credential Required show. We talk baseball over there, and who knows what else we're going to be going into right there. And this week, I think it's our favorite athletes that wore 51, which I'm sure I haven't even looked into that yet, but that's what we'll discuss right there. I also have my fantasy baseball MVP series that I do every single week and gets a fair amount of comments on. And so just get up to the Belly Up YouTube page or the Belly Up Belly Up Sports page in general, and you'll see me there. And also on Twitter at Kevin62 WILSCA, and you'll see me there.
Just to clarify, I don't know that anybody heard it this way or not, but it's not the three of us doing Seahawks sessions because me and Brian.
No, not us three.
Clearly not.
Yeah.
Clearly
No. It's already well established. Vince, you're Green Bay. Brian, you're the Giants. But in the Belly Up sphere,
yes,
unbelievably enough, there are three of us that are Seahawk fans, two of which live in New York, which I don't understand exactly how that happened.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
But Dustin, Dan, and I will be on Fridays going forward, Seahawks sessions, and we talk some other NFL news. So if you're not, you're like Seahawks, why would I want to check that out? We've got, last week we talked about shark movies and all kinds of other, off the topic, just out there stuff. So check us out Fridays.
All right. So while I'm thinking about it, Seahawks have two of my worst memories in history. The Fail Mary was a big one as a Packer fan, and that thankfully ended the lockout officials.
That's right.
But man, that was painful. And the other one was the playoffs. I think it was NFC Championship game.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, the Seahawks.
All they had to do was fall down on the onside kick, and they win the game. And they didn't do it.
I didn't would have just thrown a block instead of trying to catch the ball. Yeah, so that was a nightmare for me. And then I also meant to tell the story earlier. One major fantasy football running back failure for me. I had the number 1 overall pick, and I was just kind of playing around before the draft started. And instead of drafting LaDainian Tomlinson, I drafted Sean Alexander like a year after his prime,
Oh,
and LT was number one. And it's one of those things where I was just kind of looking through players until the draft started. Okay, it starts. All right, hit draft player, and boom, Sean Alexander. And like the whole league was like, "What are you thinking?" I'm like, "I didn't mean to do it."
You do a do-over?
Yes. So running backs have I have a little bit of PTSD with that as well. But all right, Brian, tell the fine folks where you're at this week and what you got going on.
Third 10 is back this week on Thursday. We are starting our division previews. I'm not sure the division yet, but either NFC or AFC West, because we normally start on the West Coast. Nate's a West Coast guy. He makes the show schedule. We start with the West. East Coast is far superior, but that's a conversation for a different day. Find all my writing on Twitter at BrianPG1016. I recently on Sunday had quarterback rankings go up. You can find that on Belly Up Sports. And that's pretty much what I'm doing this week.
That's awesome. So me and Dad are back on Thursday night, the Sports Stove Football Show. We have previewed the NFC East and the AFC West. So we're going backwards from one conference and forward from the other conference. This week we're doing the NFC North on Thursday night. So tune in. We go over win totals. We talk about ceilings and floors, breakout players, all kinds of fun stuff, depth chart battles, all kinds of fun stuff going on in the show right now. So check that out Thursday night. That'll be live on the Sports Stove Facebook channel, and then afterwards on the Belly Up Sports YouTube, and always on the podcast version, the Sports Stove Football Show. As Kevin mentioned, we're taking a break on Sunday with the All-Star break coming for baseball, so no fantasy baseball show this week. And then this show will be live again next Tuesday, so make sure you tune in for that one, as well as I believe wide receivers will be the topic of discussion next week for that. You can follow me on social media at Sports Stove. That's Twitter and Instagram for all kinds of opinions and things going on in the world as well. All right, gentlemen, I surely appreciate you guys, all the work that you put in. And thank you to everyone who tuned in this week live, and to all who are listening later. We appreciate you. A little bit less, but still, we appreciate you as well. Thank you for tuning in.
I appreciate you more than Vince does. All right.
Okay, there you go.
I love it.
All right.
Me talk.
That's right. All right. So check out the Belly Up Fantasy Live podcast if you want to listen to the audio version. And then, of course, the show is always up on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel as well. Thank you for tuning into this edition of the Belly Up Fantasy Live football show. Keep prepping. Draft season's right around the corner. Have yourselves a wonderful week.
That's right.